Welcome everyone to our webinar today. We'll just give the latecomers a chance to come online. We'll be kicking off in about a minute or so. Okay, I think we're good to start. I've been given the nod. The innovation journey is rarely smooth. It has setbacks, successes, and sometimes unexpected successes. Today, we will hear a story told by people doing digital twin adoption for the first time for their entire TowerCo portfolio. And before we dive into that, let's just talk about the term digital twin. It's a hype term with a broad meaning. But today, we're going to see what the digital twin means for our TowerCo business. So welcome everyone to today's webinar titled Digital Twin and TowerCo. It's a very industry-specific webinar, Digital Twin Adoption for the TowerCo. My name is Lucio Piccoli. I'm the CEO and founder of SiteSee. And today I'm joined by Nick Clark, CEO of Fortysouth, New Zealand, and his team from Fortysouth, who will tell their story of innovation and adoption of the digital twin for their TowerCo business. So before I get into the intro to Nick, to give you a quick format of the webinar, it'll be a 30-minute presentation from the Fortysouth team, followed by a 50-minute 1-5 Q&A. So please prepare your questions as you go, put them in the question chat, and Viviana will get those through to us and we'll address those at the end. Okay, so over to you, Nick. If you could introduce yourself and the team.
Yeah, welcome. So I'm the Chief Executive and have effectively been Chief Executive from day one of the company, starting in early 2023, and I'll talk about our company background in a moment. I'm joined by Ting Wang, who's our engineering lead. The three of us are all based in Auckland, and Ting has been on this journey for a while, having been with Vodafone New Zealand for a number of years before she transitioned across to join Fortysouth following the transaction. And Dave Ellerman is our CIO and has been in the telco space for a number of years.
Excellent. Thanks, Nick. Well, look, thanks for introducing the panel. So before we get into your digital twin journey, I really think we should hear more about what is Fortysouth. Who are you and what you're all about. So we've got some nice B-roll as well. So over to you, Nick. Give us a
Thank you. So we were a product of a transaction in November 2022 where Vodafone New Zealand, as they were called at the time, sold their mobile passive assets, so a mixture of rooftops, but largely freestanding poles that you'll see on the video. One New Zealand, or Vodafone New Zealand, subsequently became One New Zealand. They rebranded. They were owned by Brookfield and Infratil, so two private equity businesses. We in turn are owned by three private equity businesses, one out of the UK, one out of Canada, and Infratil here in New Zealand. So effectively from November 2022, we owned the assets but had no capability at all. Transition services meant that Vodafone, as they were, ran the business for us. I started in early 2023. Ting came across at the same time and Dave joined shortly after. So we had a portfolio of a little over 1,500 towers. We have added about 200 since and are adding sort of 60 to 70 new towers a year as we speak. We are upgrading for either co-location customers or for One New Zealand, somewhere between 300 and 400 towers a year to accommodate more equipment, particularly as the move to 4G and 5G is happening. We started with no staff. We're at about 50 staff now, which is for us broadly mature. So we've aimed for a model that's reasonably lean. We outsource quite a lot of our property work and almost all of our construction work, but everything else from project management, engineering, IT, sales, finance is within our team. The kind of three pillars of our operations from an IT perspective have been Microsoft Dynamics, SiteTracker for asset management, and SiteSee for our digital twin. So they're kind of the magnificent three for us as we build our business out. We were part of, and I talked earlier about the transition services from One. We've been entirely independent for them now for about 15 months. So while New Zealand was a little bit later than the other countries in the world, I think we're now fully independent. And as we look around the world for operations, and I've just been to a conference in Europe, I think our customer experience, our IT platform, the quality of our data is at a point now where we're hopefully at or passing comparable countries around the world. Our customers, we've got 4 really significant customers. So one of them is One New Zealand. They're on every one of our towers, obviously, and we have a BTS program with them. We have the other 2 mobile operators in New Zealand, being Spark, who were the traditional incumbent, and 2 Degrees, who was a third operator owned by Macquarie. Between them, they're on about a quarter of our towers. So we're adding colo over time, but about a quarter have co-location at the moment. And then our 4th big customer is Tate Systems. So they're a product of a New Zealand government initiative to have a new public safety network. So we have an analog public safety network at the moment. Clearly, we need to go digital. So they're in the process of deploying at the moment. So they're rapidly adding co-location to towers as we speak. So I think, Lucio, that's probably an introduction to our to where we're at as a business.
Yeah, look, Nick, that's a really great introduction. It certainly sets the scene for a lot of the audience today who are either in the TowerCo business, working in the services industry. But I think that story of you came out of acquisition is not a new story, right? So there's a lot of the audience that are going to understand how you turn this business around. And I guess that's the ability to turn a business around because you didn't really have a business and you could take some risks. And we're going to talk about some of those risks, but I like that you mentioned you're always comparing yourselves or your data to the rest of the world. So not just your local competitor, but to the rest of the world. And I think that's a big mindset that hopefully the audience here is probably why they're on this call, Nick. They want to, yeah, you're nodding with me, Nick. I think they're gauging, let's see who's doing.
Yeah, sorry, Lucio. Why don't I describe a little bit then about our progress, and then I'll hand to my colleagues to help me out. So to give you the background, it was part of our transition deal that we would digital twin all of our towers over a period. So that was our initial kind of business case, and we had belief, particularly driven by One who knew the business better than we did, that it would be valuable. But we're now at a point where we're trying to get it done as quickly as we can. So it started as, I guess, a compliance with sort of a belief that it would be valuable to a point, and we'll share a number of stories as to why we've transitioned from needing to do it to really wanting to do it. If we didn't have the compliance, we would be doing this now anyway. And so Dave leads the rollout of it, but he'll explain a little bit about how he's going about that. And I think one of the first thing that struck us as we took this business on, and I've been around telco for 20 years, so it wasn't a massive surprise, but the quality of the data we got from One New Zealand wasn't high quality. Like, I think we know that in fibre businesses, mobile towers businesses, people on the call will understand that mobile operators had an awful lot to do, and actually prioritising lease data for their towers was low down. So we've had a big push over the last 2 years to get our data in shape. So we use SiteTracker. We've put all our lease data in. We've got all our customer data in. We've loaded all the as-builts. But actually we found as we loaded our as-builts that they weren't nearly as accurate as was useful. If you're selling services or designing upgrades, you really need to know what the current state of the tower is. And I think, Ting, given your experience as a lead engineer, perhaps you want to share your experience and the quality of data that we've got from Digital Twin, and maybe how it was and how you were coping, if that's the right word, without it.
Thanks, Nick. Hi, everyone. I'm Tang. I'm the engineering lead at Fortysouth. So I established the engineering team and lead it at the moment. I joined the company from the inception and had the privilege to be a part of the entire digital twin journey. When we first embarked on the digital twin journey, many vendors came to us selling a dream. You can automate everything, you can model everything, solve every problem digitally. We were always clear that we wanted something that can drive real business outcome, can be integrated to our day-to-day work, and not just a shiny tool on the shelf. It also wasn't just about technology. It was about finding a practical way to uplift the quality of our data and ultimately provide better service to our customers. Lucio and his team stood out from their competitors back then because they understand the telco industry. We find it critical if our partners can understand where our pain points are and they can understand our workflow. That's how we started with SiteSee.
Thanks. Look, thank you for those very kind words, Ting. But we're now starting the journey. You've got a lot of data problems, Nick, and Ting's sharing that sort of data problem. Have you got any examples that come to mind, Nick, where incorrect data was holding your commercial activities back?
Yeah.
Got anything?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing we found is when we first had the business, before we'd insourced engineering, our external engineers were taking up to 4 weeks just to get the latest as-built. Now, the latest as-built should be in inverted commas. They were the latest ones we had on file, but actually just finding them was taking a huge amount of time. But we'd often find, and I think this is not unusual at all, that the as-built didn't reflect what had actually been built. And probably our most compelling case, and it's probably paid for nearly a year's worth of digital twin deployment, was one tower that was in the drawings at 9 meters high, had a certain amount of equipment on it, and we went to install more equipment for 5G, and the engineering assessment said that the tower needed to be replaced because at 9 meters the load on the tower was such that it wouldn't stand. So we digital twinned it and found the tower was 8 meters high, not 9 meters. Seems pretty similar to the CEO, but when I went to the engineering team, they said, well, if it's 8 meters tall, there's no problem at all. We can put the kit on and keep going. So that was the best part of $400,000 saved in that one example. So, if we did one of those a year, that would more than pay for the entire program. But so that's the specific, but actually the more general point, that the efficiency of the engineering team, was 2x or 3x, because the initial starting point, both of finding the information, and you can fix that, you can get your as-builts in place, but if you can't actually trust them, and you don't really trust them until you go on site, and obviously not that easy to go to site, it kind of leaves you on the back foot for a long time. And so digital twin just removes that, gives you absolute certainty about where you're at the time.
Excellent. And that's a really clear case of what we call the as-built versus the as-designed. And Ching is the engineering team lead. And as you crystallized, if you don't have confidence in your data, how do you have confidence in the commercial? So I really like to just pull out a little bit more of that. So you've got this great data now, and Nick, you just talked in that example, but maybe David, if you could just talk through, and we'll put a video up. So you've realized you could do the colo now on that structure. How did that help your commercial side of the business? Maybe I'll throw that over to David, and let's go through. We've got a video on there, David, if you want to talk through that.
Yes, thanks, Sachin. Hi, team. I'm David Ellerman. So yeah, really, co-location is a really key benefit from the twin here. So what we're now able to do is our customers can peruse our entire tower portfolio. You'll see a site up on the screen here. They can self-serve, so they can go onto the twin themselves. They can add whatever equipment they may like to add. You'll see we're adding an antenna here on the video, a drag and drop interface being used here. So really, our co-location customers can self-serve to the point of creating an application, creating a modification package, and providing that all the way to us. the big advantages here is that this is real life. This isn't a 2D drawing that somebody did 15 years ago and may or may not match reality. That's exactly what is on the tower, exactly where it is. And therefore, when this co-location application is submitted, it will fly through the process. Now, you could contrast that to perhaps the way many of us are still on the call, are still operating. Customer might come to you about a tower. They might make a request. You've got to find your own drawings, do some two-dimensional drawings yourself. You may well get all the way through that process and find out that actually that space on the tower, that spare mount that you thought you were going to bring these guys on because of data quality issues may not be there. So that back and fro with the customer is all wiped out. So as a co-location enabler, we view the twin as a massive step forward for us.
I might come in, Lucio, because I think that's the single biggest benefit we've had. So we've sit without digital twin. If a customer wants to go on a tower, they'll maybe get the latest as-built and they'll draw on it and send it through. And the engineering team will then do an assessment about whether it's doable or not. There might be the as-builts were wrong. Like there's quite a lengthy even if you're in good shape, the process is days to come back to them and say whether you're in good shape or not. What we do now with customers who want co-location is the salesperson sits with the RF engineer or the project engineer from the customer. They drag and drop the specific equipment they want. They can see where the mounts are. They can see where they'll fit. They can see where new mounts are required. They can check line of sight. They get a basic engineering assessment to confirm whether it will happen. Because we've got Site Tracker available, we can check the lease and the town planning requirements. And effectively in 15 minutes, you get a high confidence view of to whether it's going to happen or not. And I think for customers who have come out of an environment where co-location's taken 6 months to kind of get to, but everyone on the call might be, I'm sure, is much quicker than that. But it's effectively a 15-minute process, and they can then move on. I mean, I think one of our belief with our customers' worlds tend to be a lot more complicated than ours. They've got RF issues, technology issues. They're deploying. They've got customers, IT. Our world's relatively simple, and so we take through these tools. We say, right, you've now told us what you want. We'll design it, we'll engineer it, and we'll effectively let you know when it's ready to go and you can put your active equipment on. It has been a material shift, I think, in the quality of our sales conversations, and we've had fantastic feedback from customers as a result.
Nick, that's very concise understanding of what you are doing for your customer. And what I'm hearing is you're customer focused. So we're clear to everyone on the audit. What Nick is saying is his customers are coming online using the digital twin tooling and designing their colo. That is a big shift. I mean, there are going to be people on this call who may be saying, Nick, I don't believe you. Nick, I want to believe you, because this is a paradigm shift. It's not a digital twin that's hidden behind a firewall. This is public facing customer access from the desktop. And it's remarkable that you and your customers have taken on board with it so easily, so quickly. So thank you for those kind words, Nick. So let's, we're moving pretty quick. Let's get into what has Fortysouth achieved today. I mean, we've got a lot of great stuff about where we got to, but David, do you want to maybe share where you guys are at with your digital twin journey right now? Is that a good idea?
Absolutely. And that's probably a good description, actually, because we're still on this journey. We're not here talking to the audience today saying we've finished. We're at the end of this. We're still on this journey ourselves. Now we're a couple of years through it, and we're at a point now where we're really starting to see the value from this. So look, our journey to date, you'll see here some numbers around the number of twins that we captured. So our approach, and Nick alluded to this earlier on, there was a brave decision made, I think, that we're going to do this digital twin thing. There's always a bit of uncertainty there about what's the value, how quickly should we go, how much time, effort, and money are we going to put towards this thing, and where are we going to get it back? all very sensible business questions. So we took the approach. We started slowly. We dipped our toes in the water unashamedly. So I think the first year we flew and twinned 65 sites. I mentioned that number because when I come back to what we're flying now, it'll put that into some context. So we flew 65 sites, and at the twin at the time, we were using what we call the legacy version of the SiteSee digital twin. Excellent tool, and we started to see a lot of value coming out of this. Now that tool was really provided us fantastic visibility and insight into the towers. We could see what was actually on the towers for the first time. It was great. Our flight program, we used vendors initially. Now the vendors were great, but it's always harder to work for another company doing ad hoc work. Ting was heavily involved in this, trying to schedule, pilots to be a particular time, particular place. And every time you want to talk about the scope of what they would do, it's obviously part of a commercial discussion. So when we started seeing the benefits from that first version of Twin, we made the call to move on to SiteSee's nexDT, as they call it, next generation digital twin. Now this is a genuine next generation twin, fully functional. We could see some significant benefits in terms of engineering and co-location, basically, which we just talked about a moment ago. Now we were basically the first in the world onto this newer version, which from a technology person's perspective, you kind of never want to be the first. You prefer somebody else to blaze the trail, but not when there's significant value and competitive advantage, which is what we saw. So we moved on to nexDT. Now the value from that point, it became increasingly clear. So that initial uncertainty around how hard do we go at this very quickly changed, and Nick and the executive team in general got right behind the twin. We moved to an in-house flight program, so we recruited permanent pilots. We were lucky we've hired the best in the business, and we now have a fully in-house flight program nationwide, which is capturing all of our towers. Just in number-wise, volume-wise, so October last year, we flew 100 sites in a month. Bear in mind, in the first year of the program, we threw 65. So 100 a month is what we've been able to get through. Having in-house also opens up a whole lot of other potential benefits from having an internal person visiting all of our sites. So right now we're fully live new system, and Lucia, we've got 130 people plus, and they're now using the digital twin on a daily basis.
David, I think that's a real number, right? That is not just a digital twin for the sake of a digital twin. You've got your customers using your digital twin on a daily basis. That's what maybe the audience is not going to believe you, but I can reassure everyone, these guys are the first in the world to use this technology. Everyone has a digital twin behind the scenes, but this is the public-facing digital twin where you can build a whole colo, edit the colo, drag and drop EME and IEA. So I think we're running out a bit of time to cover a few more topics, but thank you, David. I think let's really cover off some of those early points that Nick said. In getting the ability to make a customer create a colo quicker and faster, that's really the commercial decision. We've got all these technical advancements to do that. I really want to hear from, there's people on this call that really want to hear a little bit more detail. So, Ting, I might ask you, can you talk through sort of the three main validations for any colo, and that's sort of the fitting, the placement of the equipment on the tower, the EME and the structural engineering. So do you want to go through maybe the EME, talk through the EME validation part and the tooling?
Sure.
And then the IEA portion as well?
Yeah. So as David said, we're now on the nexDT version of SiteSee. the previous version was good enough. It's already giving us ability to walk around the site or even fly over your tower. It's a great visualization tool, but nexDT just took us to the next level. And one of the most powerful features is this EME functionality. You can, like shown on the video, you can simulate what your electromagnetic emission plume is like. On larger towers, it may not be an issue, but this is particularly helpful if you're having a rooftop site or smaller towers where space is a little bit constrained, and it is critical to understand how the interaction of your emissions are interacting with your nearby structures, public space, rooftop access, etc. It is fast, visual, and it eliminates any guesswork, making it easier for engineering, RF, and planning team to collaborate in real time, and just enable us to get to a buildable solution much sooner early in the process.
Absolutely, and this is a really important point, Ting, that we have a lot of our European customers are having problems with those RF issues that are legislated in every environment. So this is not a make-believe problem. This is a real problem. So let's get your real background talking here, Ting. Let's talk about the IEA. So this is the engineering assessment portion, and how has that allowed you and your team to use this feature of the digital twin to fast forward colo?
Yeah, so IEA stands for Indicative Engineering Assessment. You can see what I mean by Lucio and his team understand telco industry. They know how much telco people love acronyms and give us more of that. As engineers, we used to work with incomplete data, but it only works up to a point. You can't really optimize what you can't see, and you can't really lead transformation if your workflow is stuck with chasing after PDFs and spreadsheets from 5 different sources. This engineering function, like shown in the video, you can establish a baseline load case by your engineers based on a previous structural analysis report, and a revised utilization percentage of your structural capacity is calculated in real time by dragging and dropping your equipment to where you want the kit to be. And the highlight table shows what you get. It's a color-coded system. It can be green, amber, or red, and very easy to interpret. This gives us the ability to let people who's not an engineer but need a quick gauge early on in the process make some fast feasibility decisions to understand what structural impact the proposal is having in terms of structural capacity. It also verifies the proposed antenna layout can have enough space on the tower. Along with the EME function, it just enables us to make better informed decision early in the process.
Excellent, and quicker, faster, right? So thanks for that, Ting. All right, we're rolling on. We're coming to the end of our, we've got 2 minutes. I'm given the sign. So let's talk about lessons learned. So let's sort of, what have we learned here? So maybe I'll start with Nick. What have you learned? You really talk about custom delivery. You talk about, the opportunity that the digital twins brought. How would you sum up what you've learned on this digital twin journey around the sort of commercial delivery side?
Look, I think we all, like every business has this vision of a sort of a data-led, fully automated, easy for customers business. And we took the information we got from One New Zealand, we put it all on Site Tracker, but it actually still left us quite a long way away from that vision. And it was digital twin, I think, that enabled us to get there. That means that we are pretty much living it. We're always on a journey. And I think the other thing I was going to add to David's point earlier, and I think interesting for the people on the call, is thinking about deployment. Like Dave was probably a bit modest there in that we did spend quite a long time working out how we were going to get the drones flown. And actually that insource model has done benefits for a bunch of things. I think one is it got it done quickly in the priority that we want. We were visiting every site every year, and half of those to check maintenance, half of those visits were a waste of time, effectively required no maintenance. So we've saved that by this process. So the guys have effectively paid for themselves in that respect. And we've now got a capability between digital twin and these the drone pilots that we're expecting kind of to get a new revenue stream from that once we've done our own fleet that will make ourselves available for others.
Excellent, Nick. Well, let's David, can you just add a little bit more flavour to what Nick said on your lessons learned? I guess it's pretty clear. Is there anything else that you want to add to that?
Yeah, look, just probably a couple of things from the flight program. One is, I think the flying is the easy part. So, if you're establishing a flight program, you think you get a couple of people out there flying a drone around. It really isn't that simple. There's a heck of a lot to it. The regulation, the approvals, the land order engagement, the information quality council, road authorities, etc. So you need to think well beyond just the flying. The second probably key point for me is I think at the start of the process not to get too hung up on value identification or metrics. It's very hard. The benefits become extremely clear when you have these things available, and you'll see it on a daily, weekly, hourly basis. It is quite difficult to measure some of the benefits, particularly for TowerCos, right? We don't have years of records like the MNOs may have. And yeah, I guess just touching on actually what Nick said there, significant benefits from having an internal person visiting every single one of your sites. A lot of unexpected benefits from that. We've actually been able to tick off a lot of things in there, doing simple things like track assessments. We've got some remote sites with very, potentially very hazardous tracks. If it's only ever contractors that are visiting them, how do you get a sense of that across your portfolio? And lastly, from me, just a comment in general, I suppose, around the importance of partnership. So TowerCos, we're not MNOs of thousands of people. We're very reliant on strong partnerships, and probably just a quick call out to you and the team, the show. We've certainly found SiteSee to be a very engaging, proactive, leading edge partner that have really helped us on this journey.
David, thank you very much for those kind words. You've really got some gems and nuggets of wisdom there, and I hope people will look back on this video and listen to some of that you did not know the full value when you started this journey. I think that's going to maybe shock a few people. We're getting close to time, but Ting, I really want to hear what lessons have you learned, Ting, on this journey?
Not really lesson learned, but I guess an observation I have is we should think outside of the box. We should be bold. In the early days where the Fortysouth team is developing this IEA tool with your team, Lucio, we just throw out wish lists at you and you make everything come true, and that's great. If we didn't ask what we asked, we wouldn't be here today. And another value realization, I think, is taking away the mismatches before they become issues. For example, we can avoid situations where fabricated steelwork show up on site and only they don't fit on your tower because of the reality didn't really match your drawings. Another observation is operational efficiency. So by integrating this digital twin into our preventative maintenance, we're saving great costs annually, and at the same time, we're building a richer library for our real-world site data.
Excellent. Thank you, Ting, for those very kind words. I really think there's going to be a lot of value in the audience replaying this webinar to get those nuggets out from everyone. So look, that's the end of the presentation. We've now gone into Q&A. We're a bit over time, but that's not too bad. We've got 10 minutes of Q&A. So we've got some, I saw one question that came up. Q&A. So someone's asked, this is regarding the EME. Is it cumulative EME? Yes. So the EME tooling we use is a SiteSee tooling that aggregates all the EME over all the frequencies, over all the power, all the equipment. It's a worst case scenario is what we use. I hope that answers that question. We've got another question. Yeah, it's more of a comment. Looking forward to see how we can integrate for wind, ice, and seismic data. Well, yeah, that's. I think this possibly explains that the digital twin journey is not finished for SiteSee or for Fortysouth. And anyone who sort of thinks that the digital twin of 2025 is going to be the same as the digital twin for 2030, I don't think they are understanding that this is a journey for everyone. We're going to be expecting to do different things. And I really like what Ting had said, let's open your mind and try something different. And that's what allows the digital twin to move in a different direction and to solve problems that are real problems. But we'll see what that looks like in 2030. I think, we've got more questions popping up. We got an interesting one here. Can we look back historically at models to see what was there in the past? Does anyone on the panel want to have a go at that one?
Yeah, I can probably pick that one up.
Sure.
Lucio, and then probably kick to you if you like. So short answer, yes. Yes, we can. So each of in two different ways. So within a particular site capture, as changes are made, each of those is a application or a layer almost. It's probably the easiest way to think about it. So if there's been changes made, co-location, application, something like that, we've got full traceability back through the system and could look at any of those previous states. If you refly a site, that would be a separate capture. And that piece, Lucio, I might kick to you on, but I believe we could go back to a previous capture on the same site.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I think one of the things Dave alluding to we haven't yet cracked is doing this forever and a day. So ideally what we would do is whenever we do an upgrade on a tower and add kit, we would train the team there to fly a drone. So while they're packing up, they fly a drone. We're still working through that. We want to make the process as simple as we can. Like the first time you fly these, obviously the pilots need to be a bit more sophisticated. We're very sensitive about making any mistakes with drones at the moment, so we don't lose our kind of broader license to operate. But definitely we need to work out a way that we can keep our digital twins up to date forever and not just feel good about doing them once.
You've nailed it, Nick, right? I mean, what's the point of having an accurate digital twin today if it's not accurate after you've done a change, right? I mean, that's the challenge, right? Thanks for calling that up. Look, we've got some...
Can I just jump in very quickly? Sorry,
sure.
Again, to make people in the audience who don't know this, we talked through a co-location application. If an application is accepted, so let's say an antenna has been deleted, new antennas have been added. Once that application has been accepted, the twin will retain that state. So new customers come on, they would see the twin with those changes applied, basically.
Excellent.
Just clarify that, Lucio. People may not know that you don't have to refly the site to recognise these things. Obviously, once you make sufficient number of changes, exactly as you said, Nick, we'll refly it to make absolutely sure it reflects reality. But even prior to that state, it will reflect the planned changes.
And that's exactly it. Plan changes versus the actual as-built. Well, we're getting some really powerful questions. I'm going to jump into this one because I'm going to throw this at the panel, but I like this question. Given it was such a paradigm shift for your business, how did you approach that question mark? And did you do anything specific to gain the trust and confidence in the system? I like this question because this is real. And did you run the new process and legacy process in parallel for some time? Question mark. So that's really around the paradigm shift that you guys did. How did you approach that? Go for it any way you feel like.
I mean, I've talked to the sales. I mean, sales is really the big shift. And once customers see the digital twin and drag and drop, and effectively do their application in 15 minutes, you don't go back. There's no in parallel from that. They go, well, you've done it. And then we send it off to our drafting team and they draft it. So we don't go back on that front. I mean, I don't know, if you've got a black and white TV and you buy a colour TV, you don't sort of turn on the black and white TV every now and then. You've made the move and you keep going. So, yeah, I think the question now is how quickly we can get the rest done, because we still have effectively the legacy process in place for anyone that we haven't twinned. But one of the benefits of having an in-house team is we've been quite specific or deliberate about, Dave and his team specifying the order that we do the digital twins based on where we think co-location is going to happen next, and therefore make that new experience available for everybody as soon as we can.
Excellent. David, do you want to address this part of the question? Did you do anything specific to gain trust and confidence in the system? I like this sort of lack of confidence in any sort of data. So I'd like to know how your thoughts were on that.
Yeah, no, that part of the question did leap out at me, actually. So the great irony actually is the twin that is the thing that is actually telling us the truth. It's the one thing that we can actually rely on to be absolutely right. So as Nick alluded to before, no criticism of MNOs, but they don't love keeping records about the specific of everything that's on the tower. As TowerCos, it's super important to us. Every document, every as-built, every design drawing has a question mark around it. Is that actually what the tower is like? And I can pretty much answer that question. I think for most of you, it's not what the tower is like. So we fly the twin, we compare that to the data, and there are significant differences on a very high percentage of towers. So it's actually not us getting faith in the digital twin. It's actually the digital twin is showing us the truth and actually making us lose faith in our other records, where actually we use the twin to go and correct that source data.
All right.
It's worth mentioning we did have some questions from our anchor customer one, because we've got the specific information, the specific equipment. They did have a question about whether their competitors would use the tool to trawl through the whole network and kind of recreate their network. And so we were at pains to say that wouldn't happen. We've got steps to make sure it doesn't. So that was one, I guess, customer concern that has gone away.
And you could see why, right? You have an accurate amount of data of everyone on the tower. You could trawl it, but as you mentioned, we have safeguards to prevent that from happening. All right. Well, look, we've got an enormous amount of questions. These are really good questions. I'm going to, Ting, this one is right at you. I'm sort of cherry picking them because we've got a few minutes. This is regarding IEA, right? So this is engineering. How do you know it's accurate? Question mark. And well, there's part two. Is there a way that you've captured the data, GCP/RTK question mark, or is it on the digital twin? And how have you imported that engineering data into the digital twin? So which part do you want to take first? Maybe, how do you know IEA is accurate? Over to you, Ting.
Yeah.
You need me to jump in? Yeah.
So when we're developing this, when Loshio's team is developing the IEA 2, the engineering team and the Fortysouth engineering team were collaborating very closely. We've done POC on a few sites, about a handful, 5-6 sites, and we will be comparing the IEA results to a hand calculation / software analysis results, and the results were comparable, sort of within 5 to 10%. While it is quite accurate, it doesn't replace what your engineer do as your formal assessment. It is a high-level, quick decision-making tool. The other part of the question is around...
Is it through the
GC
way you've captured, the data with the GCP and RTK? Do you want to talk through that? You're okay with that one? Because you guys use GCPs, yeah?
Yeah, we do use GCPs. My understanding, it gives you higher accuracy in terms of site measurements. There is a few challenges we have overcome in terms of getting the GCPs to work due to interference to the EME from our equipment. But I think that's going well. Feel free to jump in, Dave.
And it's a challenge, right? It's an absolute challenge. You as an engineering team want to make accurate assessment based on the dimensions of the structure. And how do you get dimensions of the structure? Well, we use GCPs. There's an RTK solution, but essentially they're using the same thing. They're using georeferencing or GPS. GCPs are the most accurate form, but there's a problem with interference. So you bang on. I'll just add a little bit to IEA, the flavor. So Ting is right. This is not IEA is not a replacement for engineering analysis, but it is, as she said very clearly, it's a tool, indicative tool to make an assessment real time. Am I 80% good to go, or am I going to need a redesign at 95% or 95% utilization? So there's a clear place where a lot of our other customers just want to know, am I safe in the 80% loading? I'm good to go, tick and flick. So it's not always a replacement for full engineering analysis. So thanks for that, Ting. David, did you want to jump in on, is there anything you wanted to add on the?
No, that's good. Let's keep rocking.
All right, cool. I think we're over. I think that's it. So look, we'll try to get to these other questions, maybe having them written. But look, that's it. Thanks, everyone. Thank you for the panel. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, David. And thank you, Ting, for your important insights and sharing some truths that I think certainly I enjoy hearing, and certainly I hope our audience enjoy hearing. So thank you very much, everyone, and the attendees. We're just going to wrap this up now. So thanks, guys.
Thank you, Lucio.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.